ledger. Okay, and we also have seen few reports from the GUI front, from the SAP front. We will see some the Fiori apps today before we get into the vendor vendor I mean accounts payable thing. So in order to get into the Fiori app, I mean just I'll just cover this Fiori thing. Okay, so in order to get into the Fiori app, we have a transaction code. We can use the same thing from GUI, or we will also have a path for Fiori app. It's basically a web-based list of a web-based list. Okay, so this list will have all the Fiori apps. Fiori apps like the normal apps which we can see in our the mobiles. Okay, so in order to get into the Fiori app, so /n/ui2/flp. So /n/ui2/flp, Fiori Launchpad. FLP stands for Fiori Launchpad, and UI2 is the software which will be used in the Fiori Launchpad. So either you can use this transaction code, or straight away you can get into you will have a separate the link for the same, and you can do that. Or we may have the what do you call, we may also have the Fiori Launchpad, the link. So this is what the Fiori Launchpad link. You can use this Fiori Launchpad directly. You just have to copy here, and you can just paste it on this thing. You can do that one also. But even if you do FLP, I mean /n/ui2/flp, it takes you to the same place. Why it's not happening? It's not responding. Continue. Here you will have a user ID and password. Okay, you can do that. Or if you go from this, you don't require to enter this part. Let me try it once again. /n/ui2/flp, Fiori Launchpad. Okay, so we have seen reports like GL line items, GL balances, the financial statement version. So for all these kind of transactions, we will have a separate Fiori app. For each and every transaction is considered a separate transaction, and will have a separate Fiori app. Looks like there is some issue with this. Okay, so best you can, I mean, the same user ID and password, whatever we have, we can use the same thing and just say Okay, so this is what the Fiori Launchpad. Okay, this is what the Fiori Launchpad. Yeah. So here you have all groupings. I mean, under report for India, you have one, my home, we have few, and under bank relationship, we'll be having multiple. So if you want to see all of the groupings, you can see there is some problem with the Fiori Launchpad. I mean, the performance issue. Okay, that's fine. Let's go here. So once you click here, you will see all the groupings. Okay, you can scroll to your own one. Okay, you can see them. Right. And if you want to select, if you want to search a particular Fiori app, you can use this. Using this, you can search the relevant one. Suppose if I say line item, line item, if I just say line item, I would be able to see all the Fiori apps which has a description as line item. See here, display line item entry, display line items in general ledger, manage customer line item, manage supplier line item, management inventory, material inventory valuation line item. So you can see all in that way. Suppose if I select it over here, so this is the line item entry report. Okay, I'm just saying our company code. I'm not selecting. See, whatever we have here in the red mark, those are called required items. Okay, those are all required. I'm selecting company code. I'm not selecting any GL. Normal items I'm selecting, then posting date until here, or year to date. If I just say as year to date or first, if I select this, okay, so I'm just selecting go. So the moment I say go, I can able to see the details over here. Okay, so company code 1248, company code, yes, the name of the, just I'm expanding over here. I will have the list of all the GLs. Now, if I expand something here, I can see the line items of that. Okay, now I'm expanding. I can see here now the line items. Now the one which we are the items which are highlighted can go further into that. I mean, if I select it on this, I will have a drop down. Journal entry analyzer, manage journal entries, manage journal entries. There are two manage journal entries. So we can remove, of course. Okay, so if you select more links, I can see only these two: journal entry analyzer, manage journal entries. Journal entry analyzer will have some details, and manage journal entries will have some more details, right? So these are not available in GUI. We have only Fiori apps. So entry analyzer is one of the Fiori app. Manage journal entries is also one of the Fiori apps. Okay, so these are all different Fiori apps. Now the click on more links, you can see now this thing. See here, these are the items selected. So I'm just removing one, and I want to select display document also. I want to see. Now these are the three items we have selected. I'm saying okay now. Now there is a change here. So display document, journal entry analyzer, and manage journal entry. Display document is just like our FB03. Now what I'll do, I'll say journal entry analyzer. This is one of the Fiori apps. Okay, I'm selecting now. I will have the details of that particular transaction, details of that particular document. I think this one is also open. So when you open from GUI, it does not expect any user ID and password. It's the same. There is no change at all on the the process perspective. It's the same. It will take you to the same screen, same area, but only the thing is directly we can take the that link and put it on the Internet Explorer, and you can do here. Otherwise, you can just enter /n/UI to /FLB. It's taking time. Normally, it does not take this much time. Of course, it is little, what do you call, in a way, it is little slow when you compare with the GUI transactions, but you know, but it has got a lot of lot of advantages with the Fiori apps. You don't have to sit in front of the system. You can just do all the transactions from mobile. Okay, so this is what is journal entry analyzer, and you have further transactions here. If you want to see, you can see in chart, or you can see this entire data in the chart and table. The moment you click here, you can see the same thing there in that. Okay, you can see the same thing here in that. Okay, let me just here 0 we have. Okay, so because of that you cannot see. Now from here again you can jump to different reports also. From here it means you can further drilling down to the reporting level. So you have these many options. You can select the relevant one, or you have multiple dimensions. Now these are the rows. You have company code and GL account, company code and GL account. I want profit center or cost center. You can pick up from here in the unassigned dimension. These are all the dimensions. Now, so cost center, I want a cost center. So what you'll have to do is just drag and put it over here under the rows. You can see now the cost center over here. See here, company code, GL account, and cost center. Okay, since we have multiple transactions, you cannot see. When you go further, you can see them. Now if you want to have your what do you call company code on the column side. Just you can put it here. That's it. So company code will go on the top, and these are the two items will show as rows. Or if you want to take something in addition to that, you can take, of course. So profit center or offsetting account, whatever you want, you can just drag and put it over here. That's it. Okay, so here you have an option, send an email, save as a type. So you can do that further. Okay, so I'm just taking back to the display line item entry. So I'm selecting further details. Now if I say GL account, rent, rent, rent has multiple line items. Okay, you have got only one entry in this. So select here and you can put whatever you want. You can select. Main is journal entries. Earlier we have seen journal entry analyzer, main is journal entries. It gives you the information about that particular entry. So this is a different app as I mentioned, right? So in order to get this be available for you the moment you execute, you need to have the relevant authorizations. The app has to be assigned to your roles. Without that, you cannot do. Even though it appears on your launchpad, but it does not work until unless you have the relevant authorizations. Now, as I said, right, so what we are doing here, we are just clicking on that document number and we are getting multiple options, right? In this case, display document, journal entry analyzer, and this one main is journal entry. Now, in order to get these appeared on your screen, you need to have the relevant rules. Without that, you will not be able to see. It simply says no data available or something it says. Okay, so that is the important point to consider. Okay, so here you can see some information. Of course, you don't have no data, some no text here. So this is something the information about the journal entry. So you can select back to journal entry. You can go back to the journal entry. This is the journal entry. Now, if I select it over here, it will take me to the list of available options. Display GL account balances, line item in general ledger, manage GL account master data. You can see even the master data from here. And if you want furthermore, you can always have an option to select. Okay, and still you have some options here. You can reverse the document directly from here. You don't have to go back to a different Fiori app to reverse it. You can directly do it from here. And the display changes, you can make the changes or you can keep that in that. So if you select it, you can see in which currency do you, I mean, this transaction happened, and what is the transaction currency, what is the group currency, and what is the hot currency. And if you select the relevant one, you can see the particular transaction in that relevant currency.
Nanda,
Yes.
suppose if you click on display general entry on a general ledger, does that shows in all the defined general ledger, for example, extension ledger and the other two
Just
ledgers?
ledger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you will have an option here. You will have an option which ledger do you want to select here.
Okay.
You will have to select the relevant ledger. You don't want 0L, you want something, you can select it here. Okay, so this is something about the Fiori app information. And and so this is for home. You can directly go to the home screen. Now you okay, now here we are in the Fiori Launchpad screen, right? Now you have an option here. Okay, this is called user. Now select it here, and you're not finding certain. Let's say I'm looking for a particular, what do you call, a Fiori app. I'm not finding that. Okay, and I've reached out to the security team. They said it is assigned to you. Now how do I get, I'm not finding here. How do I get that? You can get it from here, app finder. What you'll have to do is just select that app finder. I'm just selecting one. I will select one Fiori app. Okay, let's say financial plan. I'm just saying one Fiori app. I got here financial plan data or something. Now I want to keep this on my screen. So what I will have to do is I just have to select here, add to tile. So now I'm adding this tile to one of the groups. Which group do you want to select? The moment I say my home, you can see this under my home. You have an option to select multiple, but it is not advisable to do that. Select only in one group. Okay, just close now and go back to this home screen. You will find that in my home. In my home, you can see this now. So now if I select it here, it will take me to that. Any questions here? So here you can find multiple options, right? App Finder, you can see App Finder, settings, edit home page. You don't want certain, the Fiori apps to be shown here. You can remove from this list. So just select here, edit home page. Right now, if I just select here cross icon, can you see that cross icon on the top right right hand corner? So if I select that one, that will be removed from the list. So after making that, just you'll have to say exit edit mode, so that you will be able to save the revised Fiori Launchpad. I mean, whatever you don't want, you after removing all of them, you can see the revised Fiori Launchpad.
So is it only used for this reporting display, or you can post the transactions also?
We can post each and every transaction can be done using the Fiori Launchpad. You have FB02, FB50, you have for every transaction we have a separate tile. We can approve. If at all we have any approval process, we can approve using this. So 99%, I mean, whatever the transactions we have in the GUI, we'll have a separate tile. And in some cases, we may not find. So in such a case, we will have to check the documentation on the SAP front. So we will have that complete information. If you're not finding that, it means maybe SAP is coming up with a new, the dimensions in that Fiori app, or maybe SAP is not at all using that particular. Maybe the SAP does not want that to be considered in the future versions. It could be of any reasons. So it is taking too much time. That's fine. So this is something about the Fiori app. Okay, any questions on this?
So on a Fiori app, if you wanted to run a batch job, you can also run the batch job.
Yes, we have the
Okay.
particular the Fiori app. We can do that also. SM35, SM30, SM37, AC38, AC16, and we have Fiori app for everyone, for every transaction.
But for that, we need to add the tiles, right?
Exactly. We
Oh,
need
okay.
to activate the tile first thing. We will not be doing that. The basis team will do, and the security team has to assign the relevant authorizations. Without that, we cannot do. Okay, that's fine. So it's taking time. So this is something about Fiori apps. Just get into the Fiori apps. Uh, you know, understand what exactly is the one. It's going to be the same. Probably you can find a difference on the layout front. It's going to be the same. Okay, so you will find a difference on the layout front, but we have lot many reports which you're not available, which we don't have in GUI, SAP GUI. Okay, we have a lot of reports in Fiori app, and if you want, we can customize also. If we can create a new Fiori app using UI people, I mean the ABAP people. Okay, so we can create our own Fiori apps. We can, if at all we have any Z transactions, and if you want to consider them, you can consider them as well. You can create them using the technical help. Okay, I think that's all. Now in the SAP front, I mean Fiori app front, we will just continue our topic. Any questions apart from this? Any
Yeah.
other question?
Yes, Nanda. Suppose in a Fiori app, if you wanted to do EBS or EDI or IDOC, can you do
We
that
have
also?
everything.
Everything, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
have
So you,
every transaction.
okay. So if you wanted to just upload the statement ff.5 or something and do the automatic, reconciliations, and so we can do basically everything what we can do in ECC 6.0.
Correct. Correct.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Okay, so the next topic we have is accounts payable. Accounts payable. It's nothing but vendor. Also, we call it as supplier. Okay, so accounts payable, vendor, and supplier. So, what are we going to do in the accounts payable? Accounts payable, vendor transactions. What kind of vendor transactions do we have normal in a business? Suppliers. What kind of transactions normally we'll have? We will have some invoices. It means we will purchase material, right? Okay, and we make the payments to vendors. We do have down advances, right? We do have advances, and we do make the payments, partial payments, full payments, or multiple payments in one stroke. Okay, and right. So these kind of transactions normally we will have. Okay, and we will see some reports. What are the open items we have, and how are we doing all these things? And we may have intercompany also, intercompany vendor transactions. Of course, we will see once we complete the customer transactions as well. Okay, so these kind of transactions normally we will take with the help with the vendor. Now, if you talk about the purchase of material, we also not only we do the material purchases, we will also do services, right? Services in the sense, in our business organization we have some issue with computers. Okay, so computers, all computers, some got infected with some viral, some infection. So we need someone, some expert, to rectify all of them. So we will reach out to our people. We will take all, the quotations and all, and we will finalize. We'll invite one vendor to come here, to come to our organization to fix our issues, right? That's what normally we will do. So the technician will come here to our organization and will rectify that. For that, what he does, he will issue an invoice. That is not something relating to material, that is something relating to services. Okay, so he'll come and complete that task and he'll issue an invoice. So we will have to make the payment to that particular invoice. Okay, those are called service invoice. And the next one we have is material invoices. This material invoices we will discuss as part of FI and MM, but the service invoices is part of finance, which we are going to discuss now in our accounts payable topic. So we will be discussing only the finance invoices. It means whatever the invoices that we are posting in finance without using any MM, those are all called service invoices. For example, auditor, external auditor, he comes at the end of the year, he does auditing, and he will issue invoice for his audit work. That's called finance invoices. Okay, so like that we will have multiple invoices and multiple finance invoices, nothing but service invoices. So we will make that those transactions here using accounts payable. And once we post all these invoices using certain things, I mean, payment terms is one of the topics. Payment terms, what are these payment terms? Payment terms is just an agreement between two parties, between business and the vendor, on the payment related stuff. So in how many days the payment has to happen. Okay, so vendor, I mean auditor has come to our organization. He has completed all his tasks. Okay, he completes his task, and what he does, he will issue a invoice. So we will have to pay the amount to that particular invoice. So in this regard, we will have an agreement with the vendor of the days that we can use. It means, suppose on 1st of August, I'm posting an invoice and vendor agreed for 30 days. It means I have an option to 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 pay the amount to that particular vendor only after 30 days. Okay, so this is what we call it as payment terms. So the grace days that is considered in making the payment is nothing but payment terms. It may be vary from one vendor to the other vendor. Totally different conditions for that. If the vendor is, is old vendor for us. Okay, if the vendor is buying, I mean, if we have a vendor from whom we are buying bulk, so in that case we will have a different payment terms. It totally depends between those two parties, whether to give 15 days or 0 days or 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is, that totally depends on their agreement. So the payment terms is one of the important topic in the vendor transactions. The next one we have is a cash discount. What are these cash discounts? Suppose the agreement will be like this. So the payment to the vendor will have a payment in terms of 30 days. Now, if we make the payment before 30 days, the vendor specifies 5% of cash discount or 10% of cash discount. It means if we are paying the amount before the due date, we will have some discount. That's called cash discount. It is just an offer that the vendor gives us in order to make the payment before the due date. If you make the payment after the payment terms, then you will not have this cash discount. Okay, that is called cash discount. So the cash discount is applicable only when we are making the payment before the due date, and it is totally an agreeable percentage between these two parties. Okay, so I mean, based on this, the payments will happen. The payments to the vendor will happen. Coming to the advances. So sometimes what happens, suppose we are there in India, or we are there in Singapore, and we have a vendor from US. Okay, we have a vendor from US. Now, since it is an overseas transaction and vendor may not know about us, about our payment history. So in such a case, vendor may expect some advances. These advances, we call them as down payments in SAP. We call it as down payments. So vendor expects some advance amount, and once we give the advances, the supplier, the vendor will send us the stock, and the balance amount will be paid based on the payment terms or based on the agreements between these two parties. Okay, that's about the advances. And in the case of advances, suppose say we are giving an advance of 5,000, and whereas we are procuring the materials of 12,000. Now this 5,000 of advance should be adjusted against 12,000. I'll balance 7,000 will be paid in the payments process. So in the payment process, we have multiple options. Full payments, it means whole payment will be done. Partial payments, it means part of the payment will be happening, and multiple payments. Multiple payments covering multiple vendors. Okay, so this full payment, partial payment is a standard. Okay, it happens, I mean, based on the amount what we select in the transaction. But if you want to do multiple payments in the sense, I have, let's say, 100 vendors, and for all these vendors there are 1 lakh open items. Open items in the sense, these are the amounts that, these are the transactions that I have to pay still. Let's say I have 1 lakh open items covering, let's say, some 10 lakh dollars, $1 million, let's say. So 1 lakh open items are there. It means 1 lakh amounts, 1 lakh transactions are there to make the payment from the business perspective. That is covering $1 million. Okay, I want to pay all of them, of all these vendors. I have, let's say, 100 vendors with 1 lakh open items and 10 $1 million amount. So I want to make all of them in one single stroke. Or after, out of these 100 vendors, I want to pay 70 vendors with 80,000 line items with 7 lakhs dollar amount. I can make that. This process is called automatic payment program. So we have to do some configuration around this, and we can make the payment. So here in the automatic payment program, we will pick up all the vendors, the relevant vendors, and if you want, you can restrict some document numbers also. Let's say I have sent 70 vendors I picked up, but I don't want to consider few document numbers. I can exclude them as well. It means out of those 70 vendors, the payment will happen to all the amounts except few, the document numbers. I can do that. So this process is called automatic payment program. We will be creating a program uh, using this program. We can select the vendors, we can select the multiple vendors, multiple document numbers, whatever we want, we can select, and we can make the payment to all those vendors. That process is called automatic payment program. Next, coming to the intercompany transactions. So intercompany in the sense, let's say we have a group company, and within this group company we have multiple company codes. Let's say 1001 company code, 2000 is another company code, 3000, 4000. It means 1000 company code is selling some stock to the other company code. Other company code may be selling some stock to 1000 company code. 1000 is selling to 3000, or 3000 is selling to 2000. If any transaction happening between the company codes within a group company, all will coming under intercompany transactions. So these are all called intercompanies. These are all called in the company codes, right? Company codes under a group company. So if a transaction is happening between these company codes, that's called intercompany transactions. So normally what happens is, one company sells the goods to the other company, one company purchases the goods from the other company. Normally it happens in the case of purchases and sales, but it does not mean that always it will be on the expense, it will be on the sales and purchases. We can also do expenses. It means what I can do in this case, I'll put some expenses account on the debit side, on the credit side, say bank account. But this company code going to be 1000, whereas the company code for this is going to be the other company. Okay, so I may have this kind of transaction also. 1000 will be on the debit side with company, sorry, amount will be, expenses will be on the debit side with 1000 company code, bank will be on the credit side with the 2000 company code. So if at all in any transaction, if two company codes are getting involved, all such transactions are called intercompany transactions. In a short, I can say this. Okay, in any transaction, if two company codes are involved, that is nothing but intercompany transaction. So that is also be there. Okay, so this is what basically the history of accounts payable. Now we have seen so far a master data, different master data we have seen. What master data we have seen? General ledger, cost element. We have seen cost center. We have seen profit center. All these are master data. Similarly, the master data required in the case of accounts payable is called vendor master. Now, this is what we call it as business partner in S4. Okay, in S4 it is considered as business partner. Earlier for vendor master, in order to create a vendor master, we used to create in FK01, right, or XK01, right, in order to create. Now in S4, the transaction code to do this is BP, business partner. The transaction code is also BP. There are few changes in that. I mean, not few, many changes are there from the business partner perspective. So we don't have FK01, XK01 in S4. These transaction codes are not at all there. Even if you select FK01 or XK01, it will direct it to you BP only. Even if you select FK01 or XK01, FK0203, then it will direct you to BP. Okay, so BP is a new master that we can see from the S4 perspective. Okay, so BP is one of the master data that we will be discussing in the business, the accounts payable front. Okay, so what we will do, it is taking too much time, that's fine. Now, so let's go into business partner and we will see now. Okay, so going into SPRO, okay, financial accounting and accounts receivable, accounts payable. Now, vendor accounts, master data, and preparations for creating vendor master data. We have done this part as part of ECC. The steps are going to be the same, but in addition to that, we will have to do some more settings from the cross application component front. Here we have business partner. Yes, SAP Business Partner. Here we will have to do some stuff relating to the business partner. Of course, business partner concept was also there in ECC, but that is part of FSCM. Okay, but in S4, this becomes the mandatory in order to do our transactions, in order to have a master data in place. Okay, in order to do a master data in place. Right. So let's discuss the part what we have seen from the finance perspective. Okay, define account group with the screen layout. Okay, define account groups with the screen layout. So what is this basically? The screen layout tells you what transactions, I mean what fields are required, what fields are not required. That is what the screen layout tells about. Okay, just execute. It means we will be creating one account group from finance perspective with some screen layout. I mean with some required entry, optional entry, those stuff. So just execute, define account groups with screen layouts. You will have multiple options here. You have multiple options. Okay, these are all there as part of some standard. Some might have been created. Okay, in order to have our own, we can create our own. So in order to create our own, just go to new entries. Okay, 1 2, I will say 1248 vendor. So the account groups are created based on certain logic here. Account groups control a particular number range, right? It controls a particular number range. It means if I see a vendor with some code, it starts with 1, and I have vendors within the country, outside the country. And if the business wants to see them specifically, I mean business wants to show in the reports specifically separately. It means what I'll say, I'll keep all vendors with one series, and vendors within the country as one series, and vendors outside the country I'll keep 2 series, so that whenever I want to see my reports, you know, individually for domestic and as well as foreign, I can see them clearly. Okay, so based on that, we will have to create these many account groups. Okay, suppose within the country, I want to keep a separate set of vendor numbers for all those vendors within the state. So it means 1 series I'll keep all the vendors within the state, 2 series outside the state but within the country, three series I'll keep foreign vendors. It means on seeing a particular vendor code, okay, on particular vendor code, we will require we will easily recognize which type of this vendor is, whether he's a I mean within the state vendor, outside the state vendor, or outside the country vendor. Easily I can recognize. That's a one reason. The second reason is within the state or within the country we will have local currency transactions, but when you're talking about the other vendors, I mean outside the country vendors, we will be doing in their local currency. If you are if you are transacting some transaction with a vendor in Singapore, you will be doing that in Singaporean dollar, right? So in order to show them specifically, normally we will have a separate group, so you can create account groups accordingly. Now if you see over here field status, double click on the field status and you will have some field status here. Now, if I click on address, you have some optional, you have some suppress, you have some required, optional, and a display. Earlier, this was not there. Display was not there. So display is used. It means if I select a display here, the form of address will be appeared while creating the vendor using this vendor account group. It will appear, this form of address field will appear, but it is just a display. You cannot enter anything into it. It will be grayed out. Whereas in the case of optional, it will be available, and if you want, you can enter. And in the case of required entry, it will be available and it is mandatory to enter a value into that field. What is suppressed? You will not be able to see that field at all in the layout, in the screen. So you have an option to keep some required, optional, or something. Then for that reason, we will be using this status. Okay, so we have these many fields, and if you want, you can keep some optional, some required, or whatever we want. We can do that.
Nanda,
Mm.
suppose if you select a display
Mm-hmm.
and at the time of creating the vendor master,
Mm-hmm.
you will be able to put any data
You
into
cannot,
that field, right?
you cannot put. That's the difference between optional and display. Optional in the sense it will be available to input, or even if you don't put anything, system will allow you to do that. But whereas display, you can view that, you can see only that field, but you cannot enter anything. That's grayed out field.
No, that is correct. I understand that. But when you said, display, but something has to, the value has to be there, right? So it is
It
for
will
the,
not be there. It will not be there. No value will be available. It will be available as just a screen. It will available in the screen only.
so
You
it will
cannot
be,
enter anything.
considered as good as suppress,
Not
because
suppress. Suppress. In the case of suppress, you will not see that field at all.
I know. But see, then what is the use of putting the display when you are not, the
Just
user
to
is,
see. Just to see. That's it.
see what, see
Just
what,
to see.
yeah, see
Just
what,
a field. That's it. Just a field.
but there is no data inside the that field.
Correct, correct. You can see that. That's an option given by the SAP. If you want to keep that in the display, you can keep. That's an option we have. That's it. If I say display, in the case of name, if I say display, you can see that field, but system will not allow you to enter anything in that field. It's a display. That's an option,
Okay,
right?
right.
Okay, so I'm just keeping with the same thing. I don't want to change anything. But in the company code data, normally in the account management, we will have a reconciliation account. What is the importance of reconciliation? And I'll keep the required entry here. So let us discuss something about this reconciliation account. Now in the normal, I mean non-ERP system, what happens is I have, let's say, 100 vendors. Okay, what I will do, 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1, 1 lakh, 2, like that. I will create vendors. I'll create vendors. These are all my GLs. These are all my GLs. What happens with this? Suppose I have 100, that's fine. I can create 100. Suppose if I have 20,000 vendors, it means I need to have 20,000 GLs. Even that is also not a problem for me. Creating the GL account is not a problem for me. But if I want to see my financial statements, particularly balance sheet, okay, balance sheet will have all assets and liabilities. The vendors will appear on the liability side, right? What I will have to do now, vendors, I will have 20,000 line items, 20,000 items. Because I have 20,000 vendors, I will have 20,000. And after that, I will have other liabilities. Even that is also not a problem. The problem when it comes is when you want to take the financial statement printouts, that's the problem. In order to view our vendor transactions, we may have around some 20-30 pages just to capture the vendor information. And users, I mean, basically the management, it is a management, right? Management report. So management will get irritated with all these many. I mean, if I want to see my financial statement with vendors and the same thing applicable even in the case of customers, the same will be applicable even in the case of assets. So if you want to create a separate GL for each of the vendor, for each of the customer, for each of the asset, then you will have some 200-300 pages of balance sheet based on the number of entries you have. You will have some 200-300 pages. In order to review our financial statement, I mean balance sheet, management will require a lot of time, and they the moment they go into I mean 200 page or 150 page, they don't know what was there in the first page. So a lot of confusions, lot of things. So to avoid that, we have a reconciliation account, a concept called reconciliation account. According to that, I will be creating one GL or two GL, and all the vendors, 20,000 vendors will be created as account numbers, nothing but vendor numbers, customer numbers, asset numbers. And all these numbers will have one GL, either this GL or that GL, only one GL will be maintained. That's called a reconciliation GL. That is called reconciliation GL. It means whenever I'm posting any invoice to this vendor, it will get updated over here. Whenever I'm posting any invoice to this vendor, it will go and get updated over here. When I'm updating, when I'm posting invoice, it will get an updated. Now, why do you require one or two? Again, just to specify, I'll say domestic vendors 1 GL, foreign vendor 1 GL. So that I can see in my balance sheet only these two GLs. Suppose these are all my domestic vendors. All these vendors will have this GL, and for all these foreign vendors, I'll have this GL. It means the transactions to all these vendors will hit this particular reconciliation, and all these vendor transactions will hit this reconciliation account. So reconciliation account is one of the concept that we can see in SAP. So this is just to avoid, multiple GLs from being created, multiple GLs. Any questions here? Okay. So that is the concept of reconciliation account. So normally we will keep reconciliation as required entry. Why we are saying required entry? Because if you save a BP master without entering a reconciliation account, then after posting the transaction to a particular vendor, it does not get impacted any GL account. It will not hit any GL account, and you will not be able to see that particular transaction in the balance sheet. So we may forget while creating. So if we keep a required entry, then system will not allow us to save until we have the GL assigned to it. So normally we will keep reconciliation account as a required entry. That's again the business call, of course. But most of the times, 99.99% we will maintain the vendor master. I mean, we will have this reconciliation account as required in all the vendor cases. So this is how we will be creating an account group. Any questions? Okay, right. To this vendor, we require a number range. As I said earlier, okay, so in ECC we had only this vendor account group in finance, and we used to take care of all those activities like both finance and as well as transactions. But with S4 system, we have to do this configuration in finance and some configuration from the business business partner perspective. Okay, so this account group we have created, to this account group, if we require a number, it means when we are creating any vendor using this account group, system has to give a number for it. That's called vendor number. This is what about this. So in order to have this number to appear as soon as we create a vendor or BP, we need to have a number range assigned to it. So in order to assign it, first we will have to create number range for vendor accounts. Now the important point is whether you want to have the same number range whatever you're creating in finance with that of the BP, or you want to have a different number range. If you want to have a different range, there is no problem. What system does is whatever the number range assigned there in the BP, that will be considered. But that is not the process. So what happens in such a case is we will maintain the same number range both from the finance perspective and even from the business partner perspective. So in such a case, if you want to keep the number range as the same both in the case, then the number range whatever we are creating here has to be maintained externally. That is the most important point that you need to remember. So if you want to maintain a number range, same number range between finance and BP, you will have to maintain the number range here in finance as external. So let's go here and create a number range. Create number range for vendor accounts. Path is same, just execute. Just execute. Okay, here interval. Select interval in order to create a number range, or you can use the existing number range. 1 to 99 we have 9 lakhs to 9 lakh 99. Yeah, 9 lakh 99, 900, 500 to 599. If you want, you can create any number, covering the number which is not available here. You can select any number. Here you have 1 lakh to 1 lakh 99, 3 lakh to 3 lakh 99. So let me say 2 lakhs. I don't see 2 lakhs is there here, but you can understand that clearly. Now, in order to do that, insert line, select insert line, and the number group I'll say 2, 0, 2. So I'll say 0 to over here, and I will say 2 lakhs to 2 lakh 99, 999. And as I said, it has to be an external. I'm not going to select external. Now at the time of assignment, system will give us an error. That time we'll come back here and we will maintain the same thing. So we are going to face one error at at the time of creating an at the time of assignment between this account group to the account group what we have from the BP. So we will come back and we will do that. So just enter. Okay, 0 to is our number range that we need to remember, and just save. The number range is 2 lakhs to 2 lakhs 99,999. So the same number range also has to be maintained in the BP. That is the best practice. Okay, back. Next, we have created account group and we have created a number group, and we have to establish between these two. Assign number range to vendor account group, just execute. And here our account group is 1248 and just assign 02. It means 02 2 lakhs is a link to 2 lakhs to 2 lakh 99,999 number range is assigned to this account group. Using this account group, we will be creating the vendor master. While creating the vendor master, the vendor number will be coming from this number range, number group. This number group has a range of 2 lakhs to 2 lakh 99,999. And so what happens is the vendor number going to be any number between 2 lakhs to 2 lakh 99,999. Any questions? So this is what the normal configuration we have been doing as part of ECC. Now, a different configuration we have from the business partner perspective. So this is there in the cross application components. Okay, here we have two things. One is business partner. There is another one, document management, plan, financial conditions. No. So data production. Yeah, master data synchronization. These two are important thing for us. In the SAP business partner, basic settings, and here, yeah, define roles, define BP roles. Okay, we have some settings here, some 5 or 6 settings. I really don't remember the number, but we can see here. So all these configurations we will have to do in business partner and as well as master data synchronization. Okay, any questions? Okay, so let's continue this topic tomorrow. It requires some time because I have to complete this configuration immediately. I want to show you the BP master creation. So,
Nanda,
yes.
one quick question, please.
Mhm,
So, maintenance, even though when you roll into S4 HANA,
mhm,
does maintenance still continue in ECC or will let go ECC finally?
mhm.
I'm talking about the configuration.
Right.
When you roll into S4 HANA,
Uh-huh.
do you still do bit of configuration for HANA in
Uh,
ECC?
Yes, yes. Not we are not going to do any configuration in ECC. What my point was, the configuration what we have done in the ECC relevant to these 3 settings, right? We have done the same settings in ECC as well. So what my point was, we have to do the same kind of configuration here. And this account group is part of finance, and this has to be linked to the business partner. This is still we call it as vendor, but this vendor account group has to be mapped to the BP, business partner, that we will be discussing tomorrow. And as part of S4, we still have to do this configuration.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So we still have to do this configuration, and apart from that, we will have to do configuration from the BP perspective, business partner perspective. Okay, so we can continue this tomorrow because it requires some 1 hour time. I'll finish this configuration. We can create a master data tomorrow.
Hey Nanda, I
Mhm.
want to ask you one question. If you can go to screen layout as per the activity. So yeah, so like screen for a vendor master. Yeah, see for a second. This is for the screen layout per activity, correct?
Screen layout for activity means
Yeah, can you go back? I will show you. Go back. Like for here one, yeah, that the third one. No, last under. Yeah, that's the one.
okay.
Yeah. So that is what, actually my question was based on that.
Mhm.
So like I know the display, I still, I'm not clear on that concept,
Mhm.
because I do understand that there is a suppress means, it does not show while entering the data, correct? So
Mhm.
that is okay. Require understand option. I understand. Display also I understand that, it is only just you can see the data, but you cannot enter anything.
Mhm.
But initially somebody has to enter the data, right, while creating, and after that, after creating, nobody can, change, nobody can make any changes. So that is the only my understanding, that was the purpose of the display. But if it is no data, then it is the same as, suppress. So why, SAP wanted to
It is
add
just
that?
a field that is available in the screen just to have some information. That's it.
Yeah, information, exactly. So that is what I'm saying, that information, so there has to be some kind of information into that field, right?
My point is not the value in that field. I'm just saying that we have a field called this. It is available on the screen, but it is not available to enter anything in it. And if the business wants to have something to be entered there, then we can keep that as an optional.
Okay, so that was my question. So value has to be there, So it
Value
is.
will not be there in the case of
No.
display.
Um,
Value will
let,
not be there. It will
let
just
me
available.
explain.
You cannot enter
So
anything into it.
the display is that you will see some of these fields available. In case if business want to make use of the fields, and
Uh-huh.
because if you don't show display, the business they won't see what is available
Correct.
on that interface. But when you click on display, it will go gray, but you will have options of what they are. For example, let me say functional area, then you click display. But if any business want to make use of the functional area, then they can go forward and ask their consultants to make it optional. But if you don't click on display, you won't see what they have on that interface. For example, now if you have currency in display, it means you cannot input anything, but there is a currency field available. And if you want to make use of it, you make it optional. So when you are saying display is the same as suppress, suppress, you won't see the field at all
Yes, I do
when you
understand.
click on this suppress. So display means that there is a field called this name. But if you want to make use of it, let us know. If you don't want to make use of it, but it is available for you for your options. So that is
Okay.
what display is for. So if you are posting you cannot make use of that display because it will gray out. So
Okay.
it's just for you to be aware that there is a field that exists in this name. Do you want
Okay.
to use it or not? That's all.
Okay. Thank you, George. Thank you, Nanda.
Yep, no problem. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. So thanks everyone. So tomorrow we'll